Okay, we're back with part two of your Christianity questions. So we're going to take a look at the bottom five here. And we start out, interestingly enough, with one that's going to take us right back to what we talked about in the first one, which is what is a major difference between modern Jews and modern Christians? And a lot of it goes back to, it centers on Jesus again. Christians believe that the promised Savior from the Old Testament has been sent, and that was Jesus. Jews do not accept Jesus and are still waiting for the Savior to become. Now, one of the things that I guess always impressed on me this is, I can't tell you the Jewish holiday that it was, but there's, at certain Jewish holidays, they will even set an extra place at the table, kind of an empty chair, to show that they are waiting for this person to be sent. So I had the opportunity growing up. I had a friend who was Jewish, raised in a Jewish family. Actually, his mother was a Holocaust survivor. And so got a little bit of an insight from them, but that was one of the things I remember him sharing with me, is that on a particular holiday, they would leave an empty seat, waiting for this Savior to be sent. And Christians believe the Savior was already sent and that was Jesus. So that is a huge difference between the two of them. Now, this next question asked you to identify some of the different denominations of Christianity. Now, as you're going to find out, Judaism, Christianity, Islam are all, they're the same religion, but underneath each religion there's a number of different denominations, or sometimes they're called, sometimes they're called other groups, or they differ on something. So in Christianity, some of the different denominations would be things like Catholics, Lutherans, Methodist, Baptist, Mormon, and honestly, I could go on and on with this list to name all of the different churches that believe in Jesus and teach about Jesus, and they follow the Old and the New Testament, but they have other areas where they disagree with each other. For quite a long time, there was only one Christian church, but actually one of the major splits happened with something called Eastern Orthodox Christianity, which is still common in Greece, Russia, kind of the eastern parts of Europe. The Eastern Orthodox and the Catholics split first, and then later on, the Catholic Church came under criticism by a guy named Martin Luther. That's a whole other historical story. But Martin Luther led a campaign of change and ended up basically creating the Lutheran Church. And out of that movement to protest, which is why they're called Protestants, Lutherans, Methodists, Baptists, and a number of other religions came out of that. So basically, just to point out, I like to show this because I have heard a number of students in the past say, well, I am not Christian, I'm Catholic, or I'm not Christian, I'm Lutheran. And in reality, all of those are Christian. They just are different denominations of Christianity. And the same is true within Judaism and Islam. There are splits in those religions as well. So, the city of Jerusalem. One of the things we're going to see is that all of these religions highly value the city of Jerusalem. And probably the number one reason Jerusalem is important to Christians is this is the place of this was the major city in Jesus' time. So this is where he did a lot of his teaching and preaching. But probably most importantly, this is also the place he died. There is a church in Jerusalem the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, that was built on the site where people believe he had been buried, and again for Christians where they believe he rose from the dead. So the city of Jerusalem, that's considered to be one of the most important churches, and it's the Christian value on Jerusalem. We're going to see that come into play as there's going to be some events, a series of events called the Crusades, where Christians are going to try to capture control of Jerusalem from the Muslims who controlled it. The Christian building of worship and holy day. The holy day is Sunday, and most of the time we call the place that they worship a church. And you may notice some of these questions are going to appear on all of our different religions, and that's for a reason, is we're going to end up doing a chart later on to kind of show some of the different ways these religions differ from one another. And then what do many Christian denominations call the celebration that passes them into adulthood? It is something called confirmation, and not every church does it the same. With all of these different denominations, I can't possibly speak about how all of them do that. I do know a number of them have a service where they call confirmation, which is where children basically become adults in the eyes of the church. Okay. Again, you're going to want to make sure you're saving these questions because, like I mentioned, after we do Islam next week, we'll be coming back and kind of comparing all three of them. And what ultimately you're going to see is there's a lot of differences, but there's a lot of similarities as well. Okay? All right. Have a good rest of the day. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you and talk to you again on Monday.